Welcome back to my channel. This is Eric. Here is a empty Union Pacific coal train on the main line at East Waterfall. It's on its way back to the mine on the Cumberland branch. The Cumberland branch leaves the Union Pacific main line west of Kemmerer. There's a spur that goes to Glencoe. That's on this map. It used to be an underground mine before the open pit. Now at Glencoe, a little further south in Glencoe, it turns off to the west, goes to Skull Point, which is another open pit mine that's part of the greater Kemmerer mine complex. Used to go further south, clear down to Cumberland on the border with Uinta County, with spurs to Glencoe. And it's not on the map, but blaze on. And Cumberland is named for this. Cumberland Gap, which is also named for the Cumberland Gap in the east between Virginia and Kentucky. Not as pretty, a lot less trees. There were 4 camps in the Cumberland area. The one I'm going to talk about today is Cumberland No. 1. It was a closed town. It was a company-owned, Union Pacific-owned site. And also next to the Cumberland No. 1 mine, which is a little further south than the town. It was actually a pretty nice day for Wyoming this time of year. About 40 degrees, very little snow on the ground. So I wanted to go out and do a little bit of exploring, walking around. I'm standing where the mine No. 1 used to be, looking north. You can see the town site. It's kind of hard to make out where that was. And you can also see the roadbed of the Cumberland branch on the kind of on the right hand side of the screen. About the same location, you can see the old roadbed a little better. I will point it out. The railroad tracks went around the mountain, through that little gap, and down to a Y south of the mine. You can't see it in this photo, but the tracks went along the base of this hill. And here is a historical marker that the state of Wyoming put up a few years back. Has a nice little parking area. The mound of dirt behind it is actually the roadbed. It's part of the loadout for the Tipo. Let's go check it out. Here's what is left of the coal tipple at Cumberland Mine Number 1. Well, this is not mine number 1. It's actually mine number 2. I can't find any old photos of mine number 1, but this gives you an idea kind of what it looked like. I'm sure it was similar setup and design. Number 1 was about a mile north of number 2, and that will be a future video. Besides piles of overburden, coal not good enough to sell, and the concrete remains of the tippo, there's not much left at mine number 1. I was surprised to find this. These are actually railroad cross ties 80 years after the mine closed. I also found these. These are cross ties for the cart tracks coming out of the mine. This cross tie still has a spike in it. I was kind of surprised to find that. And there's some tin here and there. Not much left. Cumberland Mine Number 1 is pretty much lost and forgotten. It wasn't until I got home and was looking at my photos that there's actually structure up that draw there. This is north of mine number 1 and east of mine number 2. I'm not sure if it has anything to do with either one of those. At one time, there were 25 small mines around Cumberland. Also in the photo, you can see some buildings. It's kind of off to the distance, so I'll point them out to you. I think they're on private property. However, I did find some photos online. Here's an up-close photo of those two buildings from the previous photo. You can see them from the highway, and I wanted to include them, even though they're not part of Cumberland 1 or 2. I think it was a ranch and also a saloon. There's also this. It's an old bridge for automobiles. Has not been safe to use for many years. This is the only old photo I can find of Cumberland Number 1. It's from 1920s. It's not dated. A lot of these camps didn't do well during the Great Depression in the 1930s. And then there was the war. I think there was very little activity after World War II at Cumberland.